Welcome to Knowledge Valley for IAS, IFS, IPS. This is Vision Magazine for the month of May and subject is economics. Today we are going to cover in economics agriculture. The first article that we will see is on Draft National Fisheries Policy 2020. This is going to be an important topic since the policy has been brought by the Government of India. Recently, the Department of Fisheries released the Draft National Fisheries Policy 2020. So just remember this. Fisheries has been, and why the need of this policy? Fisheries sector has been facing constraints which have led to stagnation. So because of the stagnation, there is a need of this policy. And what are the constraints? Constraints include limited scope for expansion. So the scope of expansion is limited due to overcapacities in territorial waters, weak regulation, inefficient management, and prevalence of traditional fishing practices. So the first point is limited scope for expansion. Second point you must understand is inadequate infrastructure. So the first point, as we said, limited scope for expansion. Second point is inadequate infrastructure. Why this inadequate infrastructure and what are the inadequacies? You have less fishing harbors, landing centers, cold chain and distribution systems, poor processing and value addition, wastage, traceability and certification, non-availability of skilled manpower. Then we have the third constraint is inland capture fisheries. Seasonal nature of fishing operations, depleted stocks in natural waters, issues related with tenure and lease rights, obsolete technology for harvesting coupled with low capital infusion are some of the significant limiting factors. So we have seen limited scope for expansion, inadequate infrastructure, inland capture fisheries, disease, absence of species diversification, and finally others which include high input cost, lack of access to institutional credit, credit guarantee and insurance, and environment sustainability. So these are all the problems which is faced by the fisheries. So if the question comes, please be ready. So limited scope for expansion, infrastructure, issues related with inland capture, diseases, others which is mostly including finance and insurance and environment sustainability. So why this fishing sector is so important in India? Let's see the importance of the fishing sector. Fisheries are important source of food, nutrition, employment and income in India. The sector provides livelihood for 16 million fishers, and fish farmers are at the primary level and almost twice the number along the value chain. So just remember this number. We have 16 million fishermen, or that is the fishermen and women, and fish farmers. The sector accounts for 6.58% share of agricultural GDP. So 16 million and 6.58% share of agricultural GDP. The marine export stands at 5% of total exports of India and constitute 19.23% of agri exports. So remember, 5% of total export is marine exports and 19.23% of agri exports is marine. That is why fisheries is very important. In the recent years, the fish production in India has registered an average annual growth rate of more than 7%. These numbers are very, very important. So 16 million, 6.58% of the agricultural share. In exports, it is 5% of the total exports, 19% of agri exports, 7% growth. Second largest producer in fishery sector. So India is the second largest producer. There are two benches of fishery sector, namely inland fisheries and marine fisheries. The total fish production has nearly 65% contribution from inland fisheries. So many a times question asked that in inland and marine which gives more, so that is the inland contribution is more, that is 65%. Fisheries being a state subject, the states play a vital role in fisheries governance. So just remember 16 million. So 16 is the number, 6.58% of the agricultural GDP, 5% total exports, 19% agricultural exports, 7% growth. Second largest India, inland is more, 65%, and it's a state subject. While inland fisheries are fully managed by the state government, marine fisheries are shared equal responsibility between central and coastal UT governments. Coastal state governments are state or UTs are responsible for development, management and regulation of fisheries in the sea waters inside the 12 nautical mile 22 kilometers territorial limit. Center is responsible for development management and regulation in the EEZ beyond 12 nautical miles up to 200 nautical miles. So you know the jurisdiction. So it's a state subject, and center and state also sometimes in the coastal areas they are dividing their powers. Now let's see the key features. So we saw what are the problems. We saw why fisheries sectors is important. Some basics we have seen. Now let's go to the draft policy. So the fisheries management plan, first is the fisheries management plan will be made. The center will formulate FMPs for scientific management and regulation of marine fisheries resources of the country in consultation with the concerned state for adoption of ecosystem approaches to fisheries. So first we have a fisheries management plan which will be made. Integrated Fisheries Development Plan. So the government will prepare and implement the Integrated Fisheries Development Plan. Fisheries Spatial Plans. So first 3 points is more of the plans and policies. The state government will prepare fisheries spatial plans based on the guidelines prepared by the central government, keeping in all the acts and the CRZ rules, etc. Legislation, the center will also enact a comprehensive National Marine Fisheries Regulation and Management Bill 2019 for holistic resource utilization in EEZ. So just remember first 4 points of the plan or the policy is more of a plan. So you have the fisheries plan, you have the integrated fisheries development plan, and then you have the fisheries spatial plan. So just remember this. So first 3 points were the plan, next point was the act. Then we come to the database. Government will implement a national fisheries data acquisition plan involving central and state governments. National Fisheries Development Council will be created. It will establish to provide overall guidance for implementation of the policy. National Marine Fisheries Authority. So first 3 points is plan, next is an act, then you have the database, then you have the council and the authority. So you need to by heart it that way. National Fisheries Development Council and the National Marine Fisheries Authority. Private investment, a robust system of public-private partnership will be developed where the private sector will also be a part of it. Cluster approach for development of aquaculture based on production strengths of various geographical regions in order to enable focused and coordinated development of market and export oriented higher value species. So cluster approach, more than the states, the clusters will be more important because of the geography. Welfare and gender equity as well as mainstreaming will be made integral part across fisheries and aquaculture. Value chain for socio-economic well-being of women. Contract farming, states will encourage and strengthen, if permissible, contract farming and collaborative farming. So contract farming are making agreement with the companies so that timely and qualitative standardized procurement can be done by these big companies, and the fishermen have a stable market. So let's see what is there in the plan again. So as I told you, first 3 is the plan. Fisheries management plan, integrated fisheries development plan, fisheries spatial plan. Then we have one legislation, that is an act. That is the National Marine Fisheries Regulation and Management Bill. Database. After that, two councils and authorities, that is National Fisheries Development Council, National Marine Fisheries Authority. And as you know, finance is needed. Private investment, cluster approach, welfare and gender equity, contract farming. So all this is part of the policy which National Fisheries Policy which the center has planned. Objectives of the draft policy. So let's see what on what basis all this is made. So optimally harness the and capture the harness the capabilities and culture fisheries potential. A robust management and regulatory framework. Promote inland fisheries. So we know 65% is by inland, and aquaculture through standardized standard operating procedures, SOPs. Strengthen and modernize value chain. So we know there are issues of the warehouse and sale and the market, etc. And mostly fishes are having a short shelf life. So the fishes, they spoil faster. So that is why we need a proper market and warehouse and storage facilities. Market, trade and export of globally competitive fish benchmark with global standards. We need to export more fish. We know we are the second producers, and focus on export can be done. Has a lot of potential. Access to institutional credit finance is an issue. Finally, ensure food and nutritional security. So very high proteins, source of protein is fishes. Various interventions in different sector include fisheries management in areas beyond. So let's see in various sectors how it has been worked. In areas beyond national jurisdiction, there is a considerable scope of harvest fishery resource in the high seas. The government will promote harnessing the fishery resources. Foreign fishing vessels will not be allowed to fish or undertake fishing related activities in India's sovereign water. So that is we are doing in the fisheries management, that is areas beyond national jurisdiction. Mariculture. Genetically modified species shall not be allowed for mariculture activity within the identified mariculture zones. The government shall designate certain areas as mariculture technology parks. Inland fisheries. Population of native species in the rivers will be enhanced through seed ranching of native stock by developing dedicated seed production units in the vicinity. Certain water bodies will be considered as a reserve for fish, and introduction of suitable high value species to boost culture fisheries. So what are the other things in the plan or other interventions? So remember, areas beyond national jurisdiction where there is a lot of scope, we will be using our fishery resources so that we can fish, and in the sovereign water we will not allow the foreign vessels to fish. In mariculture, genetically modified species will not be issued, and technology parks will be made. Inland fisheries. To improve the inland fisheries, seed ranching of native stock, certain water bodies will be reserved for fishing, suitable high value species will be brought in. And freshwater aquaculture. Efforts will be made by the states to enhance fish production and productivity through the application of technology and formation of FPOs, that is the Farmers Producer Organization, and brackish water technology. So in order to ensure that fish produced from wastewater aquaculture is safe for consumption, appropriate regulatory, management and precautionary measures will be put in place in coordination with relevant agencies. So these are the various interventions. So just remember, fisheries management, mariculture, inland fisheries, freshwater aquaculture and the brackish water aquaculture. So what did we see? We saw what are the problems of the fisheries sector in India, some basics on the fisheries, what does the plan say, what are the objectives and what other interventions. The next article that we are going to see is Rice Export Promotion Forum. Recently, government set up Rice Export Promotion Forum under the aegis of Agricultural and Processed Food Export Promotion Development Authority, or the APEDA. about the Rice Export Promotion Forum. Its objective is to identify, document particulars, and reach out to stakeholders across entire production supply chain of export of rice for increasing these exports significantly to the global market. So the APEDA, that is Agriculture and Processed Food Exports Promotion Development Authority, they have started this forum, that is a Rice Export Promotion Forum, and the Rice Export Promotion Forum is to increase the production supply chain and increase our export significantly. Now, what will the Rice Export Promotion Forum do? It will monitor, identify, and anticipate developments pertaining to rice production and exports and recommend necessary policy measures. So first of all, it will focus on increasing the exports. How? It is by identifying, monitoring, and give advice for making a necessary policy. It will be in touch with rice producers, exporters, and other relevant stakeholders. So stakeholder approach is needed. So holistic stakeholder approach is very important for increasing the exports. It will comprise representatives from rice industry, exporters, officials. So these are the stakeholders. So they are rice industry, exporters, officials from APEDA, Commerce Ministry, Agriculture Ministry, and directors of agriculture from major rice producing states such as West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, etc. Now let's see what is this APEDA. APEDA was established under the Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority Act 1985. So it is a statutory body. So again I am repeating, Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority. So just remember, it is to increase the exports. That is why it is called as Export Development Authority of what? Agricultural and processed food. It is under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This is like the favorite questions which are asked in UPSC. In which under which ministry is APEDA? Like they might ask you, under which ministry is FCI, or under which ministry is CACP. Same way, under which ministry is APEDA? So that's Agricultural and Food Products Ministry. Agricultural and Food Products. This authority is under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It is mandated with responsibility of export promotion and development of products such as fruits, vegetables, meat, poultry, etc. Under Agriculture Export Promotion Scheme of APEDA, it provides financial assistance to registered exporters under sub-components of the scheme such as market development, infrastructure development, quality development, and transport assistance. APEDA has been entrusted with the responsibility to monitor the import of sugar as well. So just remember, APEDA, it focuses on the exports of the agricultural and processed food products, and made in 1985, part of the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and helps in promotion of exports of various agricultural products by various methods. And it also imports sugar as well. So such questions can be asked. Now, why there is this need for a dedicated forum for the Rice Export Promotion Forum? Why this need? First of all, let's see the rice production in our country. So India is the second largest producer of rice in the world. So just now we saw in the fisheries we are second largest. Same way in the rice production we are also second largest. And as we know, the first will be China. And has been the largest exporter of rice after shipments of the non-basmati were allowed from 2011. Major share of rice is cultivated during the Kharif season, while a small share is during the Rabi or summer season with assured irrigation. India's rice production has grown from around 96 million tons to 111.47 million tons in 2019-20. So just remember these numbers. So initially earlier we had seen the fisheries sector, now we are seeing the rice sector, 117.47 million tons. So why is this need now for the dedicated forum? Rice is the largest commodity in India's agri-export basket. Rice shipments stood at $7.7 billion in 2018-19 and basmati at $4 billion and non-basmati at around $3 billion. So rice was around 7, 4 and 3. Remember this. So that is why there is a need. Second is overcome rice exporters' challenges. Major challenges that are faced by the exporters or the stakeholders are rise in MSPs irrespective of international prices, compliance with international standards regarding pesticides, residue, etc., restriction on exports in case of domestic price rise, and logistic issues such as improper warehouse management and transport facilities. So these are the challenges faced by the rice growers or rice exporters. First is rise in the MSP. So once the MSP is increased, so our farmers won't get a chance and they will not be able to sell at a higher price, and then it can't be exported. Second is compliance with international standards. So very high standards internationally. Third is restriction on exports in case of domestic price rise. So government tries to control the prices. And finally, logistics, warehouse and transport facilities. So that's the second issue. The third challenge is capitalizing on global demand of India's rice varieties. This can be achieved via educating stakeholders at all levels in fields such as marketing, technological developments in rice production, etc. So third challenge is there is a demand of India's rice variety, but we need to capitalize on this. Exploring new markets and establishing the Indian brand. That's another challenge. And last is lack of awareness, that is updated information and knowledge in context to the export procedures. Certification needs focused approach. So why we are having this rice export promotion forum? It is so that we can sell or export our rice in large number, overcome the exporters' challenges, capitalize on the demand of India's rice, make the Indian brand of rice famous and of good quality, and finally to overcome the lack of awareness. Now some things about the rice. Direct seeding of rice. Punjab and Haryana could face a shortage of laborers to undertake transplantation of paddy in upcoming Kharif season. Due to the COVID-19 and the movement of laborers, Punjab and Haryana might face this issue. This now has encouraged them to adopt direct seeding of rice. What is this direct seeding of rice? Direct seeding of rice refers to process of establishing a rice crop from seeds sown rather than transplantation. So in the transplantation method, we have a field. Here you have this is a nursery, you can say, where the rice is grown, and the main field is over here, and then it is transplanted. So you have this here in a proper manner or a pattern. So this is transplantation, but this needs a lot of labor, and transplantation is good because the productivity increases, but there is no labor. Now they have to directly sow the seed. In transplanting, farmers prepare nurseries. So as I just told you, nurseries where paddy seeds are first sown and raised into young plants. These seedlings then uprooted and replanted 25 to 35 days later in main field with standing water. It ensures a uniform plant stand and gives crop a head start, and also helps in over emerging weeds. In DSR, that is the direct seeding of rice, water is replaced by real chemical herbicides. In transplanting, standing water acts as herbicide and prevents growth of weeds by denying them oxygen. But in DSR, there are a lot of weeds which are there. Advantage of DSR: saves water, saves irrigation water, labor, energy, time, reduces emission of greenhouse gases, etc. Whereas the disadvantages of DSR are high weed infestation, evolution of weedy rice, increase in soil-borne pathogens, nutrient disorders, exposure to birds and rats incidences, rice blast, brown leaf spot, etc. So very important to understand the difference between the direct seeding of rice and wet paddy transplantation, and what are the advantages as well as disadvantages. So this is a part of a GS paper 3 agriculture. So we have seen two topics today, that is on fisheries and agriculture. Remember, the art and science of asking questions is source of all knowledge. Thank you.